Hi, it's O.T. Carlson here, going back in time with the world of cinema today. Sadly, a few years ago, the company Twilight went out of business. They were a great boutique label and reissuer of films on Blu-ray, and they only released 3,000 of each limited edition they put out, and I'm going to look at one of those titles today. The movie we're looking at today is Fate is the Hunter. I'm going to unbox this release and share my opinions. There's our cover art featuring the plane crash from the film. Back cover with all of our pertinent info. Here is our actual disc. Here's the booklet, nice art on the cover there, and then on the back cover we've even got like a reproduction of some vintage poster art. And there are some nice photographs and essays in this booklet. That's one thing I always liked about Twilight Time releases. From the bestseller by Ernest K. Gann, author of The High and the Mighty, Fate is the Hunter details a horrific airplane crash and, in its aftermath, the desperate attempt to discover what brought plane, passengers, and crew to their fiery fate. Directed by Ralph Nelson with superb black and white cinematography by Milton Krasner, this combination of disaster movie and mystery interweaves the stories of a dogged investigator, the doomed pilot, his bereaved girlfriend, and the tragedy's sole survivor to build a climax of breathtaking tension. One thing I do want to clarify, even though this movie takes its title from a book written by Ernest K. Gann, the movie has absolutely nothing to do with the book in question. Ernest K. Gann's original book was actually an anthology of old aviation stories from his experiences, whereas this movie is actually about investigating the crash of a jet airliner. The two have absolutely nothing in common, and Gann even wanted his name removed from the final film for this reason. So what we have here is actually a decent but not great drama looking into a terrible plane crash and the investigations into it and the people that are involved. Glenn Ford has always been, one of my favorite classic Hollywood A-listers. I mean, this guy played everything from the bad guy in the original 3:10 to Yuma to Jonathan Kent in the original Christopher Reeve Superman movie from 1978. He's great in every movie, and this is certainly no exception. Seeing him getting dogged and hounded on by the public and his fellow airline employees, it certainly shines through really well. And he plays the everyman role pretty well. We do get Rod Taylor portraying the ill-fated pilot of the plane. Sadly, he doesn't get a lot to do because, of course, the plane crash happens relatively early in the film. And then we get other stars in the film like Suzanne Pleshette playing a stewardess who survives the crash, and Nancy Kwan as the widow of the deceased pilot. Now, I do like a lot of what this movie tries to do. I mean, it's a nice combination of drama and technology in a time when jet travel was still a pretty novel concept. I mean, this is back when people still dressed in their Sunday best every time they got on an airliner. The problem is the narrative structure is a complete mess, and the movie can't quite decide what it wants to do. Because it kills off its pilot relatively early in the movie, what we learn about our pilot generally comes through flashbacks. There are a lot of flashbacks throughout the movie, and the problem is these are supposed to be there to try to sort of flesh out the characters and the events, but they really don't amount to much or tell us much, and they really just drag out the padded runtime. Another aspect of the movie that I'm really not too crazy about is the treatment of the female characters. Suzanne Pleshette and Nancy Kwan are both great actresses, but the movie pretty much just shafts them and puts them aside until they're necessary for the plot. And because of this, they just don't get the necessary development or the treatment they deserve. The solution of the final mystery is to, of course, what caused the airliner to crash in the first place makes for an interesting revelation. I won't spoil it here if you haven't seen the film, but I do have to say the end result is something of a mixed bag. Certainly worth watching if you're curious, but don't come in here expecting the greatest aviation film ever made. Now, I do have to say, the picture quality on this release is top-notch. This beautiful black and white cinematography is preserved very well here. I mean, you have nice dark black levels, bright whites, and lighter colors when you need them, and lighter scenes when you need them. I mean, if they decided to make a 4K Ultra High Def release of this film, they could probably base it on this same master, and it would still be a phenomenal looking 4K disc. I mean, there are some minor visual effects things and like opening titles and so forth that drag a little, but for the most part, picture quality is top-notch. There are a handful of bonus features, including a commentary track, which plays alongside an isolated score. There's a theatrical trailer, and perhaps most noteworthy, there's a feature-length documentary on actress Nancy Kwan. And this even runs longer than the film, and it's a very interesting look at her life, of course being one of the first really successful Asian film stars and sex symbols. I can recommend this release to anyone who's curious if you can find it for a good price. Seeing as how it's Twilight time and out of print and the company's out of business, it might be kind of hard to get your hands on, but if you find it for a good price, why not pick it up? How about you? What did you think of Fate is the Hunter? Do you think this is a solid movie in its own right? Would you rather see a more faithful adaptation of Ernest K. Gann's original stories from his book? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Also, remember to subscribe to this channel for more comics. I'm always posting new videos, and make sure you give this one a like if you found it helpful. I'm Timothy Carlson. I'll see you next time.